Tom, how's the day been? How are you? Give us a re-intro into Tom and Innerworks.
Yes. Okay. I'm doing very well. Yeah, I've been had some time off last week actually, which is nice.
Really?
On occasion. Yeah. Went back up home, saw my parents. It was my mum's birthday. Spent a bit of time there, so that was pretty nice. Nice to get out of London. You forget that getting out of London's actually quite nice sometimes.
Agreed.
When you're in there. But yeah, reintroduction to Innerworks. So I'm co-founder and chief product officer. We are building the future of synthetic AI threat detection online. So we are looking at bot detection primarily and VPN detection, geolocation detection, basically understanding everything that we should have already been able to understand about users online, but we just haven't. And especially as AI threats grow and threats get harder to detect, we're really building sort of the future of an immune system of the internet to constantly adapt to incumbent threats and identify, who these bad guys are online.
Tom, I know we touched on it last time, but I really want to understand the immune system aspect of it, because it feels like you're building Innerworks as something that is going to have, is its own living organism that is going to have to adapt and constantly counter new threats that crop up that are naturally occurring or from bad actors.
Yes. Okay. So as it stands, what we've built is a protocol called Red Team, and the way that Red Team works is our detection methodologies, or our bot detection, device fingerprinting, our VPN detection. We can put areas of that technology that we want a little bit of help with, that we want to improve, and we put it onto the Red Team platform. And what that does is it taps into a hive mind of engineering talent, these ethical hackers that can bypass our detection methodologies. We can reverse engineer that bypassing and implement it into our algorithms. And so what that's meant is we're seeing threats sort of 3-4 months ahead of the market. So we're seeing these threats on the Red Team platform. We're installing them into our own algorithms, and then with the customers that we're rolled out with, we're then seeing those threats start to emerge on a sort of a delay. So we're staying ahead of the game in terms of when these attacks become commonplace in the market.
How difficult is it to begin to counter these attacks? Is it something that is quite easy, or are there different levels to it, or is it something that is just blanket difficult?
It's only going to get harder, right? But I think that's the issue that we face, right? AI is ultimately going to be better at attacking and creating these threats than humans are right now. Right now, it's largely a human versus human problem. And so that's why when we look at Red Team, we're tapping into the human hive mind. But moving forward, this is going to be AIs. And so this idea of actually tapping into agents that are constantly creating new threats. And
there's no downtime on agents. They could just just keep spawning new variations of themselves. There is no layup, there is no taking a rest. It's just a constant barragement, I assume.
Exactly. And so when you have these agents that are going to be bombarding these systems, you need, as a defense mechanism, to be creating your own agents or tapping into sort of, as we say, a hive mind of agentic frameworks to then learn from the agents on sort of the ethical hacking side. So right now we have sort of hackers versus ethical hackers. In the future, we will have malicious versus ethical agents.
Do you have to then build your own malicious agent to try and counter the ethical hacker? This is what the
Red Team platform achieves, right? This is a decentralized protocol that incentivizes. Right now, it's humans, but in the future, agents to contribute to our challenges for the power of good. right, rather than for the power of evil. This is, it's all underpinned by a native cryptocurrency, and they are rewarded for their contributions to this protocol. And so the sort of the growth that we see is that actually it becomes more lucrative to be a good guy than it is a bad guy. Then you've created a system where the defense can truly outweigh the attack.
Why is it underpinned by a cryptocurrency? Why do you need that reward or incentive model underneath it?
So there's a few reasons why a cryptocurrency is kind of useful in this sense. First of all, you completely sort of automate the finance of this platform. So you could go and log in right now. You could contribute to Red Team. You could start contributing to our challenges, and you would be rewarded for that. I think the anonymity is powerful for the sorts of people who are involved in serious hacking kind of operations. These are not people who tend to like to go through KYC processes, right? If you want the best of the best, then providing this anonymity layer is largely useful for them. And then you can also, there is an economics behind it that allows you to back the growth of the protocol itself and the growth of these concepts as a whole, and that contributes to the value of the underlying token, right?
Can you explain the tokenomics of it a little bit for me? I know we've touched on it briefly here, but why that moving forward is the right way to build this out versus, because I can see that the ethical hackers longer term, you won't have physical human beings, as you mentioned, you've got agents, but then those agents will have to go and do work, right? And are they rewarded for that work, or do you end up scrapping that underpinning long term?
So in terms of explaining the tokenomics, the answer is no, I can't.
It's frankly a complicated beast.
Yes, and also not actually my domain. Our CTO Oscar is sort of the king of Red Team.
We've got to get Oscar on the show at some point then.
You definitely need to get Oscar on the show. Yeah. But yeah, you had a second part to that question.
No, I wanted to understand more longer term. Obviously, as chief product officer, you look at the integration of the underpinning, as you've mentioned, of a crypto or some sort of currency underneath that, right? For human beings as the ethical hackers. So that transitions into agents or ethical agents that are working on your behalf for good. Do they still need to have that incentive model as agents, or is that something that you potentially would likely scrap in the future because it just becomes useless?
No, because agents are built by people or companies, right? And so, I see a world, especially, as right now, your top AI models are obviously sort of very well kept within sort of your big IR companies. But I think as this becomes more democratized in the future, and I think it will be, this will be people innovating on different areas, not just innovating on kind of the algorithms that they produce, but the agents themselves. So if you imagine now when we have decentralized people, contributing to the challenges, then this will be people with their own agents acting on their behalf. And so I think the incentivization still is applicable because it's incentivizing the creators of those agents.
Clear. What is you've obviously raised a huge amount. It was awesome. We had you on the show for that. Smash the gong. How do you end up deploying that capital, and how are you deploying that capital into the product?
So from my perspective, it's very much been growing our engineering team.
Is it difficult to find engineers that do the work you do?
So there's two sides to the coin in terms of the structure of the team, right? My team are what you might call your traditional engineers, right? We are building a scalable software solution that facilitates the algorithms that Oscar and his team build out. So from my side of things, I mean, yes, hiring is a difficult thing to do, right? And hiring for a small scale startup is incredibly difficult, but we've been lucky enough to find, we've got a brilliant senior backend engineer who's just come in to work with us called Samson. He was at Tessian, and he's he's been able to tell me everything that I've been doing wrong, right? Essentially, which is always good to know. And he's really taken the standards of our engineering forward as we kind of go from a company that builds a software solution that is good and works to a company that builds a software solution that can scale to serve every company that you can think of. Also bringing in a platform engineer who's coming in mid-December, who's going to fill a similar role for us on the sort of the platform and the infrastructure side. But yeah, it's been tricky. We managed to work with some great recruiters, and yeah, finally, sort of after a long haul, got some great hires in place.
What do you look for? Like, what's your mental model on hiring for these roles? Is it you want a 10x, 100x engineer that's going to be a step change in the organization and really allow you to propel yourselves forward? Or do you sort of build a nucleus of a team around you of like several 10x individuals that are going to be there for the long haul? I'll give you an example. The way that I've looked at it is that if you can work with the people that are really difficult to work with, like sometimes they're so hard to deal with, they are usually the people and individuals that give you a step change in the company, like really are incredible at what they do. But being able to be around them, being able to get them to work cohesively within the team can be difficult. But if done well and you give them the space, are catalysts for growth.
Yeah, so I don't think I would ever hire someone who I really struggle to work with. That's not me, because we want to foster an environment where people are enjoying coming to work, enjoying the people who are with. We all like each other. I think bringing someone in that was creating that sort of work environment, I don't think would be conducive to the direction we're going. But I also don't believe that 100x engineers can't be decent people, right? And I think we've Samson in particular is a great guy and has come in and sort of fitted in really well with the team and also moved the needle in a strong direction. So I don't think I'm necessarily looking for your 100x engineers and kind of like the FANG kind of ethos, but certainly I'm not looking for people that I don't enjoy working with.
Clear. I've got to ask, like the three of you, Oscar, Ollie, and yourself, how did you come together?
So the company in its current iteration was a pivot made by Ollie maybe 2.5-3 years ago now.
Right.
It was all based around using this sort of behavioral biometrics data set, which fundamentally is the basis for the device fingerprinting, the bottom section, the VPN detection. But it was being used in a different space. It was more being used in a recruitment space and sort of like psychometric testing. And the shift here was that this is an identity solution, right? What you're creating here is a data set that can be used to pin a user to a person to their presence on the internet, and that was a shift that was made when Ollie was sort of a solo founder. He got in touch with Oscar through Upwork. Actually, he was raising some early stage capital, and he needed some dashboards to show to the investors in a pitch, and they worked together, and it just became clear that they were in the same headspace. They knew the potential for the company, and they wanted to work together. So they formed a partnership there. I come onto the scene slightly later. I joined as sort of a founding engineer, and then it became very clear that there was a gap in Ollie handles sort of the very sort of commercial end. Oscar's very deep into the technical of the algorithm. There's a need for someone to build sort of an engineering culture and to be a pragmatist, frankly. Sort of a skill gap that was missing. And so I came in and filled that role. And the three of us have been working together really quite well since then.
Do you think deeply about how this product looks longer term, or do you feel that, like, at the end of the day, it's going to look a little bit like Jarvis out of Iron Man versus Ultron?
I I think one path that we've been on for a while with the product is that this is ultimately a software solution that slips into a web page somewhere, right, and collects these metrics and can be plugged into a risk engine. There's nothing inherently that you need to kind of see visually for that to work, right? It just kind of exists. Now we are rolling out some really quite neat visuals to our customer base at the moment, because as much as what I just said is true, to actually see something with your own eyes is immensely important, and to get that kind of holistic understanding of, what is the state of my user base? Is it individual accounts and operated by individual users, or are there massive clusters in which a massive proportion of my accounts are all being run by the same user on the same device? Where are these users located? Are they masking where they're located? Are they as sort of automated accounts? Step for us. And so, as much as I don't know exactly what this product's going to look like kind of a long way down the line, I know that it absolutely has to have this component that just shows, from a commercial sense, right, you have to show stakeholders what they're buying, but also just to sort of ingrain the importance of what we're looking at, and the things that people didn't know before about their platforms before we came to work with them. And as soon as you see it, you're like, why didn't I know that? Like, that's such fundamental information about my user base.
Can I ask, what have you learned about yourself building this out? As it's quite a complex product. It's not something that, it's not a consumer grade product that everyone's going to interact with overtly. It's something just going to underpin our entire use of the internet.
Yeah. So what have I learned about myself? I came from an engineering background. I did an engineering degree, and it wasn't even a software engineering degree at that. I now am deeply involved in product. I'm deeply involved in go-to-market, and so I think what I learned about myself is that the skills I developed as an engineer is actually quite an abstract problem-solving ability, right? Just sort of being able to look at the big picture, absorb information, and provide an output from that. And I think, so what I learned is that applies itself to many more places than engineering. Being able to take a systems approach to many different areas of building a company is beneficial.
Do you feel like we're in the age of the engineer right now?
That's a very tricky question, because there's an argument to say that no, we're in the age of the humanities student, the empaths. In a world that's becoming so increasingly sort of tech focused and automated, it's the people that are the most important. Not that engineers can't be empaths, to be clear. But are we in the age of an engineer? Yes, because at the stage that we're at now with AI, right, the most important thing is to be able to break down a problem into its constituent parts, and AI can then be used to solve them in kind of a once they're broken down. But being able to look at the very highest level and figure to be solved is one of the things and so that is stay for a long time.
Do you find yourself constantly updating your mental model on what like AI can do as you begin to build this, like continuously build this product? I know for me, after every conversation I have with like a researcher or someone in design, like my mental model of like what this technology is able to do just constantly changes. I know that it's pivotal for like the rest of our lives. It's going to be the huge step change that we collectively are able to live through, but I have no idea what it's going to do for humanity.
Yeah, I want to change the framing of that question slightly, because my view, and I don't think this is something that will apply in our own lifetimes, but my view is that it's not about what AI will be able to do, because ultimately I think the answer to that is everything, given a long enough time frame. But it's about what will it be able to do first, and what will it be able to do sort of over the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and how do we react to it? How's that going to change? I don't think I've seen a massive amount of shift in that on a broader scale. I think, you know, the sorts of things that we thought AI would probably be able to do, it is doing, and it's doing it better. I don't think it's reaching a point. I'm certainly not someone who's thinking about, you know, having AI write production grade code, or doing sort of the one thing that I have seen, which is excellent, is sort of like your Figma AI type solutions, where you're going from wireframes to dashboards like immediately with actually good front end code. I think that's something that, you know, when you have a sort of software level product like ours, right, and you just need to show something for it quickly, and you're not really onboarding many front end engineers, you know, that's been incredible. But I think I'm staying aware, but I haven't seen anything that sort of shifted my ethos on the sorts of things AI is going to be doing over the next 3, 4, 5 years.
What do you want it to do? What do you want it to be able to do? Is it write production ready grade code, or is it just the boring admin tasks that you know you're going to have to, like emails here, emails there, run your life outside of work, run your life at work, and that way you can focus on deeply thinking about like how do we evolve this company?
You read a book called Deep Utopia?
I haven't. It's on, like, but it's on the list.
Okay. Read that, because
and then come back to you. I got it.
yeah.
I get a lot of reading homework through the show. It's like Magnus from ByFounders and Data Crunch was like, you got to read this series of books, and that way we can have a conversation about how he invests. Give me a précis.
There is what would be nice is for AI to do everything, and then we live this sort of utopian life where we can kind of do whatever we want, but then there's risks in that in its own right, because as soon as it starts doing everything that we would want to do, then it does everything, and things lose their purpose, right? And to preface this, I know we're going way off on a tangent from Innerworks stuff, but it's that's, you know, I think in my view way outside of our lifetime, right?
Why do you think it's way outside of our lifetime?
I think we're in the very, very, very beginnings of a sort of a landmark technology innovation that will continue to grow for the rest of human history. I don't think, you know, I think the sorts of things that it could be doing in thousands of years' time, we can't even conceive of right now.
Do you think that Innerworks plays a role within how AI gets rolled out across the internet because of the type of company and technology that you're building?
I think, you know, by its very nature, cybersecurity threats of the future have to be constantly adapting, right? There's the time where you could build a cybersecurity solution that did some checks, and then you rolled it out and pushed a patch every 6 months are over, right? Because we're in a new paradigm of how attacks are formed, and that's only going to sort of exponentiate. So yes, I think we're building sort of the fundamental way of thinking about cybersecurity solutions in this kind of adaptive manner.
I guess the question I haven't asked you in the hour that I've been able to speak to you in the first segment and this segment is like, why is this the problem that you want to solve? Like, why did you team up? Why did you come on board as a founding engineer? Because it feels as if you have a view of the world, and this aligns, and building Innerworks aligns with that. It's like, I want to make the world a safer place. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's quite easy to look at the benefits of a new technology. And that tends to be where people go first, right? And there's always a bit of a lag with, okay, well, what are the threats? What are the risks? Especially on a business level, I think there's plenty of research going into the risks of AI, right, on sort of the academic side of things. But in terms of a company coming along and saying, hang on, this is really scary, let's do something about this. So someone's got to do it, right? And I think, the beyond sort of just how interesting the technology is, how great the team are, how much I'm excited about the space, I do think that there is a sense of responsibility around, okay, we're really getting going with this now. This is something that is going to protect the future of the internet. And so, yeah, we're the team to do it. And so we just need to keep cracking on.
I've got to ask, it's one thing that I ask all the guests on the show. I'm building up this sort of proprietary document on like whose people's favorite founders are. In your case, it doesn't have to be a founder. It can be people within the context of product, or who are founders who deeply love product. For you, who's on your Mount Rushmore?
Interesting. So it's maybe going to be a little bit surprising because it's not actually going to be that producty. I think Steve Blank is up there for me.
I was thought you were going to say Steve Jobs for a second.
No. I mean, Steve Jobs, brilliant, right? But Steve Blank, I think, the whole sort of lean startup methodology and kind of, observing Silicon Valley through such a growth stage, and then being like, okay, well, how do we build a system out of this? How do we now teach people how to go and repeat that success that kind of grew out organically through a lot of trial and error? How do we build a system around that? I think is an incredible skill to look over something that was so organic retrospectively and build something so actionable out of it. So yeah, and I mean, Lean Startup was even though Steve Blank didn't write the book version, right? It was Eric Ries, but yeah, that was one of the first books I read when I was like, you know what, maybe I want to go into entrepreneurship.
All right, Steve Blank on 1. We got 3 more.
Oh, we got I think Jeff Bezos. I think the Amazon culture. I think you rarely get to have a conversation with someone in a business context and then go, "You worked for Amazon, didn't you?" Right? It's the ability to not only.
Have you noticed how you could sort of start identifying them with the way that they think? It's actually the similarities between all of them are incredible.
And the ability to do that on a company scale, I think, is
mind-blowing.
Right. So for that, sorry, you froze for a second, which gave me some time to think about my third option. I'm an engineer at heart, and so for all the engineers out there, I'm going to say Steve Wozniak, the unsung.
The unsung hero.
Not all that unsung in the grand scheme of things, but yes, the other side of the coin.
I love that. We got 1 more.
That was 3, wasn't it?
No, it's 4. It's Mount Rushmore. Oh,
it's
no,
4.
We got Steve, Steve Blank, we got Steve Wozniak, we've got Jeff Bezos. Who else is on the list? Last one. You can say Oliver Quinn.
Yeah, go on. He can go on there. He can go on the Mount Rushmore.
Tom, this has been fun. I'm looking forward to doing it again with all three of you. Maybe in person at some point. It'd be cool to see the inside of Innerworks.
Yeah, and then I'd like to get to that new location. It looks very nice.
It's not bad, right? The set moves now, so we're out and about in London and the world. We're going to take this thing on tour. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for the time, my friend.
Yeah, thanks so much.